right experience if you really want to win long term and be truly creating, I think, a sustainable business. So I still think at the end of the day, a great experience with a great product is the ultimate thing that makes your business something special.
Brian, what about the health of the consumer? You have a great business, a great product, and a great way to deliver it, pun intended or not. But what about the health of the consumer? How much is the strength there in the macro environment helping you?
Yeah, look, we see our customer and the general consumer as very healthy right now, really strong. And what we've definitely seen is people view, food with integrity, true culinary, fresh ingredients as a valuable proposition that they continue to want to come to our restaurants to experience or order online and experience. So our value proposition is strong, and what we see, the consumer is really strong. So right now it's working really well for Chipotle.
So, Brian, we're here at our Evolve conference. It's all about business evolution. You have turned this business around. You saw the stocks up over 100% since you took this role. What's your best piece of business advice for someone who came in like you did in this position to turn a company around?
Yeah, look, the thing that I really focused on right away was making sure we had the right people, the right talent, and the right jobs. And then the other key piece was we had to focus on what are the few things we're going to do really well and execute. And I think we've done a nice job of getting the right leaders in marketing, operations, digital, finance, all the key roles that you would need to lead an organization, create a strong culture. And then we got very committed to the strategies or the things we wanted to focus on and execute. And every time I've had the opportunity to walk into a new business, which I've had the opportunity to do that a couple times now, it served me well. And, I would encourage everybody, make sure you got the right team, the right culture, and then be choiceful on how you're going to allocate those people to go knock down some big wins.
Perfect. Brian Niccol, CEO of Chipotle, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bill, I'm going to send it back over to you.
All right, Kate, thank you very much, and thanks to Brian Niccol as well. Coming up here, we've got the tasting menu, slacking off, turning on yogurt, and an anti-drug message that maybe sends the wrong message. Coming up.
At Lidl, we're big on getting in the Christmas spirit with our award-winning 8-year-old Queen Margot blended Scotch whisky for just $12.99 and our award-winning range of Hortus Artisan gins and gin liqueurs from only $9.99. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
On 3, our unlimited data is actually unlimited, like for reals. That means you can scroll and scroll and scroll through all the Black Friday deals.
Because we have no speed limits, no data caps, and you'll be 5G ready at no extra cost.
Wow, so many savings.
Our Black Friday deals are now on. Save up to £480. Switch to 3, in-store or online. See 3.co.uk/unlimited-data. Savings on selected phones on 24-month contracts. Ends 5th of December. Terms apply.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
With the new Halifax Family Boost mortgage, children can get help to buy their first home, and mum and dad earn interest on their savings. Everyone's a winner. The new Halifax Family Boost mortgage. Halifax makes it happen.
Your home and savings could be at risk if mortgage repayments are not maintained. Only available in England and Wales. One applicant must hold a Halifax Reward or Ultimate Reward current account. Conditions and exclusions apply.
Former Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein had his name dragged into politics by Elizabeth Warren, and he stoked the flames with a snarky tweet. Earlier on CNBC, Blankfein addressed that topic. Robert Frank is here with more. What happened here? What did he say?
Well, really interesting interview. Blankfein saying he was staggered that politics has shifted from populism to what he calls demagoguery.
We're shifting a bit from populism, where you want to represent underrepresented people that feel they didn't have a voice, and you want to appeal to them, to a kind of demagoguery, where in addition to trying to help underrepresented people, you're labeling people as villains who may or may not have a role in the problem.
Blankfein also saying that capitalism is not broken. Our wealth creation system should be celebrated, but wealth distribution needs improvement, saying it could be accomplished through an estate tax or by taxing capital gains, anything but a wealth tax.
I understand where it's coming from. I understand the goals. The problem with it is it's completely unworkable. It's not just fancy people with tens of millions of dollars worth of art collections. It's anybody with a farm or a home would have to establish what that home was worth every year.
And of course, since he's a billionaire, anything he says or does will be held against him.
And I feel like that was one of the questions that Scott sort of asked him. Like, haven't you all sort of stoked this fire a little bit? You've given a face to this argument.
And I think part of it is they can't help themselves. You know, they're part of being
asked.
in the mix. They were asked.
They were asked.
And I think Lloyd did a great job saying, I don't want to respond to this. And I think he did a good job doing it indirectly. But I think he also did a good job saying, look, there's part of our system we should celebrate, which is the wealth creation side of it. What we need to work on is the distribution side. And he had he's a progressive business person. He's what he calls a militant moderate, but basically a Democrat for most of his life. And I think most of his policies are with Elizabeth Warren, except for the wealth tax.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, guys.
And I'm sure this gentleman will have a lot to say about this whole issue as well. Former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers will be coming up on Closing Bell at 3 o'clock Eastern Time.
Well, here's a taste of some of the other stories that we're following today. Shares of Slack falling 10% after Microsoft announced that its rival to Slack, called Teams, reached 20 million active daily users. Microsoft is pulling farther ahead of Slack, who, as of October, had 12 million users. Since its direct listing, Slack is down about 19%.
Now, we talked about this on Rapid Fire last hour, and I was of the opinion that, this seems like much ado about very little in the short term. Both companies can grow these users. But Leslie Picker feels like there is a zero-sum game to all of this, that Microsoft has positioned its Teams communication system as a bundle that makes it much more affordable for its customers, whereas Slack, you're just paying for the one item. So there's a value proposition there that Microsoft seems to be willing, and clearly with the number of subscribers it's getting right now.
I was sort of wondering about that very thing, if that might make more sense to an enterprise customer, like a business, to say, hey, well, we already buy all this Microsoft suite. We should just incorporate Teams into this a little more, save the expense on whatever it is that Slack.
This is one business where bundling is okay right now.
That's
exactly.
Funny.
All right, yogurt sales are in a multi-year slump, peaking in 2015 at $9 billion a year. They're expected to fall to $8.2 billion this year. Companies are trying to salvage the souring market by chasing cultural shifts. See what I did there on that one? In daily consumption. Chobani is working now on oat-based yogurts and drinks to help it stay ahead of the pack. The yogurt company says its dollar sales are up 9% this year, in part thanks to low sugar and coconut-based yogurts. Tell me an industry that's not being disrupted right now by plant-based or some other artificial ingredient that people perceive to be a healthier alternative to what we've got right now.
I know, it is so interesting. Even like at the Starbucks counter, you hear like oat milk, almond milk, I don't know, wheat milk, whatever the heck that they make. I am biased on this story because I think yogurt is disgusting. I've never liked it. Yes.
Really?
And people that say,
even the stuff with the fruit at the bottom and all that?
That's actually the worst in my opinion. Like the mixed textures, oh my gosh. But in people that want to use Greek yogurt instead of sour cream, you are nuts. Sour cream is a wonderful condiment, and it cannot be replaced by Greek yogurt. So there.
Okay. I didn't know I was stepping into that one. Finally, South Dakota is on meth. This is not a happy story. That is the headline in the state's new campaign against drugs. It features the phrase, meth, we are on it. The slogan is meant to show that the state is working on the problem, but instead, of course, it has led to endless jokes and memes online. The state reportedly paid $450,000 for the campaign. South Dakota's governor's office sent us a statement saying that the mission of the campaign was to raise awareness. Clearly, it's working, even though
it's raising awareness of something.
The double use of it
I think it's confusing.
It's too flippant for the subject. It's clever.
I agree.
It's clever, but it's too flippant for such a serious subject.
And when
here,
I first looked at it, and you see, the photograph of, like, I think I saw 3 football players on a football field, meth were on it. I thought, what is that trying to tell me?
And apparently there is a real meth problem still in South Dakota. My wife has a relative who lives there. She works at an addiction clinic, and she was here for my son's wedding recently and said, yes, it's not about the opioids in South Dakota. It's about meth still.
It's a problem. This campaign, though, I think it was confusing to me when I looked at it. I didn't know what it was trying to tell me. Well, still ahead, New York's Attorney General calling Juul the new big tobacco, accusing the e-cigarette maker of targeting teens in its ads and allowing products to be sold to minors. We'll have those details when Power Lunch returns.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
Did you know that at Boots.com, there are thousands of amazing gifts to choose from? And if you order online, they can be delivered to the boots of your choice for collection. So gift like you get them at the fantastical choice of thousands of gifts to order and collect boutique. Charges may apply. See Boots.com for details.
Cutting for the net. Scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Touchback right into the end zone. Touchdown.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
He runs inside. He's got a 10, 5, touchdown!
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Indianapolis Colts visit the Houston Texans at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Firing, caught, 10, 5, touchdown!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen and favorite ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
You probably have heard that New York is suing Juul for targeting its product toward teens, saying that the e-cigarette giant took a page from Big Tobacco's playbook. CNBC.com's Angelica Levito joins us for more on this. I mean, their legal woes just continue to mount here, don't they?
They do. I mean, just yesterday, California sued Juul. North Carolina sued Juul earlier this spring. There are, there are lawsuits from counties, school districts, individuals. There's just all kinds of lawsuits right now.
And the big question is, or the big problem, I should say, is the targeting towards teen and not being super transparent about the fact that it was a nicotine addictive product. Is that the main issue?
Yeah, so both the lawsuit today and yesterday focused around marketing to teens, not being very forthcoming about the nicotine content of the products, and allowing kids to buy the products. So a lot of the lawsuits so far have focused around the marketing. We've seen that. What was interesting yesterday in California's suit was that they focused a lot of their claim around Juul's age verification system, saying that it didn't appropriately vet customers, actually shipping products to a person named Beer Can, and then an address, no signature needed, Palo Alto. And then today, New York saying that just as recently as last year, Juul's own secret shopper program allegedly went and found that dozens of retailers in New York were not checking IDs, but Juul allegedly continued to sell to them.
So they've got damage control to do, clearly. They say they want to regain the trust of the public, but I can see lots and lots of settlements in their future. Do they have the money? Is this an existential issue for this company right now?
That's a really good question, and I was trying to figure out exactly how much these lawsuits could cost Juul, and it's very unclear because, for example, with California, it could range based on how many people saw these advertisements.
Right.
It's unclear. Who knows? It could be millions of teens. And when talking to people, they weren't really sure how the state will come up with that number. But, I mean, it could cost them a lot of money and just the sentiment. I mean, most people don't see this as a genuine company, and it just adds to their problems.
Angelica Levito, thank you. We'll see you later. A lot more on that story here. And you can go to more on Juul to CNBC.com.
Well, Check Please is next.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Coffee shop, cashback, cat flaps, cashback, beanbags, rucksack, hire car, buy a car, flapjack, cashback, dumbbells, cashback, takeaway, holiday to anywhere the sun is at, bum bag, laptop, big match, hatchback, binge watching, paintballing, crab fishing, cashback, anything you want to buy, everywhere you want to go. Guess what? Cashback. Whatever you spend your money on, get money back every time with the American Express Platinum Cashback Everyday Credit Card. Search Amex Cashback. Representative 22.9% APR variable. Minimum annual spend to receive cashback. Terms apply. 18 plus subject to approval.
At TUI, we can help you find the perfect family holiday. And with flights from 20 UK airports, we make getting there a whole lot easier. Book now and choose from thousands of holidays under $399 per person. And spread the cost with £0 deposit when paying with direct debit. Book online or in-store with one of our travel experts. At TUI, we cross the T's, dot the I's, and put you in the middle. Offer available on selected holidays for a limited time and subject to availability. Booking T's and C's apply. At or protected.
Did you know that at Boots.com, there are thousands of amazing gifts to choose from? And if you order online, they can be delivered to the boots of your choice for collection. So gift like you get them at the fantastical choice of thousands of gifts to order and collect boutique. Charges may apply. See Boots.com for details.
This Black Friday, get Sky Entertainment for £22 a month. Then enjoy a spectacular 50% off Sky Cinema, including Christmas movies like Mary Poppins Returns and The Grinch. Build your perfect bundle today. Choose any or all of our Sky TV packages and get an incredible 50% off. Hurry, join today. Visit sky.com. Offer ends 2nd of December. New 18-month minimum terms or 31 days notice to cancel depending on package. Discount on standard pricing with same minimum terms. Set up £25. Kit loaned at no cost.
Check, please. I am still fascinated by Coty's $600 million deal to buy half of Kylie Jenner's cosmetics company, valuing this 4-year-old company at $1.2 billion. That is unbelievable.
Pretty amazing. About 2 years ago, we spoke to Kris Jenner at Women's Wear Daily about this and asked, what companies he'd been talking to. And at the time, she admitted they had talked to people, but Kylie was not ready to give it up, that she retained control and owned 100% of the company. So this makes her one rich individual.
But it's corporate validation for the sustainability of this product, the allure of the spokesperson / owner of the company.
Ulta has seen some nice traction as a result of being the exclusive retailer for the products. Otherwise, you got to get it on our website only.
That's amazing.
It's pretty amazing.
Stuff. Fun inquiring with you as always.
You too, Bill. That's it for Power Lunch.
Closing bell starts right now.
Welcome to the Closing Bell. I'm Morgan Brennan in for Sarah Eisen at the Home Depot Post. Sales miss, that's dragging that stock down 5% right now, which is taking the broader market with it away from those all-time highs hit again at the open this morning. That said, S&P's right at the flat line. We got 59 minutes left to go.
We do indeed. Good afternoon. I'm Wilfred Frost. Let's have a look at what is driving the action this afternoon. President Trump threatens higher tariffs if China does not make a trade deal. Retail's getting crushed along with Home Depot. Names also like Kohl's, Macy's, Nordstrom sharply lower. And while that might be a red flag for the U.S. consumer, housing data rebounded with building permits at their highest level in 12 years. We are set once again for a record all-time close on the Nasdaq. Anything positive, of course, is a record. The S&P's just dipped negative. The Dow has been negative for most of the afternoon. Joining us for the full first hour of the show, Steve Weiss from Short Hill Capital Partners. Steve, very good to see you. How you doing?
Good seeing you. Thanks for having me again.
What stands out for you as to whether or not we're going to see a meaningful move higher or lower from here as we sit at these records?
It's all about trade, and it continues to be about trade. Home Depot's announcement aside, which, by the way, wasn't terrible.
Wasn't terrible or was terrible?
Was not terrible. And the stock's appropriately saying there are lots of people who are buying it into the earnings. And Home Depot, let's face it, they've delivered remarkably over the last decade, particularly since new management came in. But I don't think it's really a referendum, this report, on the health of the consumer, which is what the market is based upon. Mm-hmm. And appropriately, we're barely down today relative to how we've moved higher. The other issue is trade. Now, I think it'd be fair to just look at Trump's announcement today that if you don't make a deal, we're going to come with really high tariffs, is deflection from the impeachment hearings that are going on. So I don't think it's pure coincidence that every time there's news that he comes out with something to deflect, what most politicians would do. So, look, it still turns on trade. Most of the phase one, whatever that's going to be, is in the market. We'll have a little more upside now once they announce, but I think it's more of an overhang. So seasonally, we're in a great spot. The market should trade up through the end of the year. As we get into 2020, and as we have more clarity on who the front runner is going to be for the Democratic nomination, that's when it can get a little dicey. Also, I've heard so many people come on our show, Halftime Report, come on this show and others. Earnings have bottomed. We're going to have great earnings growth next year. I don't know that you can bank on that. So maybe all we need is just a bottoming of earnings. But the market's taking its cue from a steepening yield curve and saying that in fact shows that the economy's better.
Well, going back to the earnings picture and specifically the retail wreck, the retail sector on pace for its worst day of the month on the back of the disappointing earnings that we got from Home Depot and Kohl's. Courtney Reagan has the details. Court.
Hi there, Morgan. So yes, both Home Depot and Kohl's did report disappointing sales, and they both lowered their full year forecast. Now, I spoke to Home Depot's new CFO, Richard McPhail, who said, quote, "We are absolutely not seeing softness with the consumer. We think the consumer is healthy." And he said how the housing environment is healthy and stable. McPhail said that the lowered guidance by Home Depot, only a reflection that they're taking their time to roll out the initiatives. He said Home Depot is already getting about 0.5 point of comparable sales increase as a result of some of those initiatives, like its new website for pro customers. But it's had to roll out those sites' features a little more slowly than previously planned. Meantime, Kohl's comparable sales grew slightly after falling 3% in the first half of the year. Gross margin, though, did fall, and aforementioned, they lowered their forecast, too. CEO Michelle Goss told me on the phone, quote, "I am absolutely convicted that we will return this business to profitable growth," though Kohl's hasn't officially laid out its 2020 guidance plan. Goss also said that Kohl's cut prices in the quarter because of two things: very warm temperatures, which hurt sales of cold weather items, and a competitive environment that intensified. So Goss said that Kohl's stands for value. It needed to lower its guidance here going forward to give it room to make the necessary investments it might need to make for holiday to increase current customer loyalty and capture new shoppers. Wilf, back over to you.
Cool. Thanks so much for that summary. Consumer sectors are, of course, towards the bottom of the pack. Energy, the only one lower today. Let's send over to Mike for today's market dashboard. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Wilf. Here is what we have ahead for you. First of all, can it long endure? It being this very, very calm, orderly rally that we have right here, hovering near all-time highs. So look at a couple of indicators. Then never forget how far this market has come. We've hit actually something of a landmark, very long-term landmark for the S&P 500. Then union or division, activist investors, often a divisive approach to how to extract value. They've had a rough time of it in the last couple of years. And then unfinished work on houses, a look at housing sector and the overall economy. So first of all, take a look at a couple of glimpses of how calm and then well-loved this rally has become. The 3-month S&P 500 realized volatility, this is the average actual volatility shown by the S&P 500, has really hit kind of the bottom end of a 2-year range right here. The 1-month measure of this is actually even a little bit more dramatically lower. So usually when you get very, very calm, it sometimes marks the approach of a turn. This was back in July. You saw something similar. However, I do want to point out, look at how low we stayed through 2017. That was a very calmly uptrending market the entire year. You did not have many gut checks in that market, and you had much, much lower realized volatility. So there's no absolute level at which this is a warning or an all clear for that matter. Now take a look at sentiment toward very large tech and growth stocks. The NASDAQ 100, this is the daily sentiment index, so basically traders' bullishness relative to this index. And this is a percentage of bulls right here. That's about the 90% level. You can see it's pretty top. It's pretty heady right here. And I'll just point out a couple of places where this came into play. It doesn't mean it's an absolute top, but it means the gains from here sometimes maybe are harder to come by and maybe get reversed down the road. So something to watch, that the market is perhaps running a little hot in terms of the mood of traders.
Mike, thanks so much for that. We'll see you again a little bit later. But for now, let's bring in Mad Money's Jim Cramer for more on today's market. Jim, how you doing? Good to see you.
I got 171,000 people around me at Dreamforce. So, Wilf and Morgan, how can I not be happy? I even have some of my favorite mascots are right with me.
Yeah,
most ever.
171,000 people and one cat, if that's a cat or a tiger.
It looks like game day. The whole city grows. Game day. I mean, this is the Super Bowl is nothing on this thing. I mean, it's an extravaganza of intelligence.
Well, Jim, we want to get some of your insight about you've got coming up from there in a moment. But firstly, we're just discussing some of those consumer. Are you concerned about the outlook for the U.S. consumer following a couple of those earnings reports this morning?
No, I mean, remember, we're still in the wake of Walmart, which I think is taking a lot of share. And Walmart had an absolutely spectacular quarter with 275,000 people going through. I still think Costco's good. I think Target will be okay tomorrow. Home Depot had some specific tech issues that are worrisome, but overall, they're strong. The one that I'm most concerned about is a company that has failed and failed and failed in the last couple of quarters, which is Kohl's. And you know, I've got to tell you, this was a particularly miserable quarter, and I did not like the way they portrayed it as being a great quarter. So much better to own it, wear it, not that anyone I know is wearing the clothes they sell, judging from that quarter, and just admitting that instead of being convicted that you'll have a better quarter, by the way, it should be convinced you'll have a better quarter, just say, hey, listen, we are not doing it right. Because you know what? The only people really making it work are off-price and online. Who is Kohl's? Who is Kohl's? That's what we don't know.
Jim, are you surprised to see names like Macy's and Nordstrom down? I mean, Macy's down 11%. They haven't even reported their numbers yet.
They're analogs. They're analogs. They're brick and mortar companies that are searching for an existential clearing. They don't know. It's kind of like Sartre meets Camus. Not Camus, Wilf. That's a good Cabernet. Camus. And what I find when you start getting down that path, knows wine. When you start going down that path of not knowing who you are, this is what you get. Who is Macy's? Who is Nordstrom? I know who Costco is. I know who Brian Cornell is and what he's doing. I know Doug McMillan tomorrow morning on with Becky. I don't know who Kohl's is other than a company that starts its conference call by saying it's doing well. Well?
Jim, just quickly, overall valuations as we sit here at these record highs once again. Are you content with the level of the S&P 500 multiple?
Yeah, I hate to default to the, well, what else you're going to invest in. I actually see, by the way, you said some card numbers out of Europe today that were very good. I think that the tech numbers are all very good. I think that if you get away from some of these smaller retailers, you got to be pretty happy. And yes, if the president just decides that he's going to tweet that he hates the Chinese and they won't even buy our pork, they won't even buy our bacon, so we're taking the things up to 30%, we're going to have a 5 to 7% hiccup. I want you to have cash so that you're ready to buy stocks like Square that we just saw earlier this morning, like NVIDIA, which has come down a little bit from its highs, or of course, like this is traffic. Oh, there's some of my buddies, Salesforce, which by the way has Disney. I love Disney, but come on. I mean, does Disney have game like this? Look at this. Plus,
Jim,
these
I have
guys,
to say,
this guy went to Stanford. This guy went to Stanford. This guy went to Berkeley. This guy's a comp sci major. This guy had like a 37 on his ACTs.
And Jim, I have to say, I don't think I've ever seen anyone bring more energy to the screen than you, but I think whoever is dressed up in that cap behind you may have done
Definitely
it.
breaking a sweat.
And they must be warm inside.
Well,
Jim,
that guy is he's a code writer like you never see. I mean, he's the greatest code writer. Best code writer where, in America? Yeah, perfect.
Jim,
I love
awesome
it here,
stuff.
Will.
Thanks so much
People
for
are
joining us.
happy
And we
here.
look forward
People are
to
happy
all
here.
of your coverage.
We're not happy.
We're happy here too. We're happy as well, Jim. Great stuff.
Yeah,
We
you're
look forward to the
you're
special
so
edition of Mad
happy.
Money. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Anyway, Mad Money tonight. Big lineup
Thank you, guys.
from San Francisco with Jim, including Salesforce Chairman Mark Benioff, RH CEO Gary Friedman, many more. You don't want to miss that. 6 p.m. Eastern Time.
Meantime, we've got a news alert on a key funding vote, and Ilan Moy has the details for us. Ilan.
Morgan, the House now has the votes it needs to pass a bill that would keep the government open through December the 20th. The current vote tally is about 231 in favor, 188 against, 12 Republicans so far voting with Democrats in order to support that bill, but this vote is still ongoing. Now, remember, this is just a short-term bill that would keep funding levels exactly the same. After it passes the House, the Senate is expected to take it up before the government runs out of money on November 21st. After that, President Trump would have to sign this bill as well. But fundamentally, guys, this just moves the funding fight from before Thanksgiving to before Christmas. Back over to you.
Ilan, thank you very much for that. We've got 58.5 minutes left to trade, and we are set for a record all-time closing high on the S&P and the Nasdaq, but not the Dow. Still ahead, the debate over taxing wealth heating up today as Goldman's Lloyd Blankfein responded to Elizabeth Warren's tax proposal.
We shouldn't have unworkable, demotivating kinds of taxes that will achieve equality by reducing everybody's level of wealth.
Ahead, we'll speak with former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers about his take on where tax reform should start.
And later, the DOJ making moves in the movie industry, exploring a rollback of a rule that bars studios from owning theaters. We'll discuss that and the crackdown on big tech with antitrust chief Macon Delrahim. It's another big interview you do not want to miss. Stay with us.
This CNBC program is...
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our Party Time mac and cheese bites for just $1.19. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
Dell celebrates your small business this November with early Black Friday deals. Our biggest Black Friday ever starts right now. Save up to 50% on business tech, including Windows 10 computers, powerful servers, and the latest award-winning monitors, all with free delivery. Call 0800 085 4878 to talk to a Dell advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878. Or visit dell.co.uk/SB deals for Dell's biggest Black Friday ever. Limited time online offer. Hurry while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today. You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn. MSNBC is on TuneIn. Get up-to-the-minute coverage on news and events from around the world with MSNBC's live 24/7 station on TuneIn. At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with MSNBC's full lineup of shows, including Hardball with Chris Matthews.
Hi, I'm Chris Matthews. Thanks for listening to MSNBC on TuneIn.
And The Rachel Maddow Show. Plus, when news breaks, MSNBC has you covered with live updates, expert analysis, and more. Search MSNBC on TuneIn today.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger.
Search the Better Network. That's the BETR network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy the day in sports. The NFL, college football, basketball, hockey, baseball. Sharpen your edge. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Be better informed. Be better prepared. Search the Better Network. That's BETR.
Into the end zone, touchdown.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
He runs inside. He's got a 10, 5, touchdown!
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Indianapolis Colts visit the Houston Texans at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Firing, caught, 10, 5, touchdown!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. Time now to get word on the street. Bank of America giving a bullish outlook on Google's new gaming service, Google Stadia. The firm cites lower financial barriers for players and the service increasing the reach of console-quality games for its positive outlook. MoffettNathanson downgrading AT&T to sell. The firm says it doesn't expect AT&T to hit its revenue growth target of 1 to 2% in 2020, and that a stretched valuation, and less compelling dividend yield will make the market start paying attention to the stock's fundamentals once again. It's down 3.7% though.
Investors continuing their bet on big tech stocks. New notes from Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, and Citi on institutional ownership and hedge fund trends show the biggest investors bought Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and Alphabet during Q3. Stephen, what do you think of big cap tech right now? I mean, we just had that chart up from Mike Santoli in the last block as well.
I like it. No, I don't think it's overloved at all. Hedge funds just aren't that dominant. They never were. We talk about them a lot, but they're less dominant now. So I like big tech because it's a momentum market. It's a market that's worked on multiple expansion. Apple has had down earnings, down revenues, if the stock's up 60%. Why? Not because the fundamentals are so much better, but because the market's going for those names. And then if you put up good performance like a Microsoft, it's even better. So I think big tech continues to move higher. Google, Amazon, they're part of big tech. I own them both. I'm less optimistic about them. I don't see anything wrong with them, but they're in the headlines constantly. And along with Facebook, which I also own, they don't stop. They keep going for more and more dominance. So basically, the headlines continue keeping overhanging stocks. They'll move up marginally as fundamentals work out. But I think the less controversial names will do better.
All right, well, still ahead. SpaceX and Blue Origin among a new crop of companies getting the green light from NASA this week to bid on deliveries to the moon. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine joins us in the latest installment of our Watch This Space series to discuss.
And after the break, former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers is here to break down one way he says the federal government could collect more revenue without even needing to raise taxes. We're back in a couple of minutes.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly, like our delicious Favorina all butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99 and 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes NI.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Dell celebrates your small business this November with early Black Friday deals. Our Our biggest Black Friday ever starts right now. Save up to 50% on business tech, including Windows 10 computers, powerful servers, and the latest award-winning monitors, all with free delivery. Call 0800 085 4878 to talk to a Dell advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878. Or visit dell.co.uk/SB deals for Dell's biggest Black Friday ever. Limited time online offer. Hurry while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
On the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
The move, and a shot, they score!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. Former Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein sitting down with CNBC's Scott Wapner earlier today to weigh in on the wealth tax debate as plans like Senator Elizabeth Warren's have gained the attention and the ire of Wall Street.
At the end of the day, I recognize the great success of the wealth creation machine and the less successful part of the wealth distribution machine. And so we can respond to that with progressive taxes. We can modify our estate tax, but we shouldn't have unworkable, demotivating kinds of taxes that will achieve equality by reducing everybody's level of wealth.
Joining us now for his reaction is former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers, who is out with an op-ed this week advocating for strengthening tax compliance. Thanks for being with us today. What is your thought on the wealth tax, and what are you proposing in this op-ed that would be a better solution?
Look, I think the place we should start is by collecting the taxes that are owed under current law, but not collected. That'll be some $7 trillion over the next 10 years. We can't get all of them. We can't get most of them. We can't get half of them. But I submit that we can get 15% of them, and that's $1 trillion over the next 10 years. And I think that's where the tax debate ought to begin. It's not where it ought to end. There's a lot we can do else to increase progressivity. We need important reforms in the capital gains area so that capital gains don't entirely escape taxation when they're passed in the context of estates or when they're transferred to charity. We've got abuses in the corporate area, particularly involving foreign income. We've got the continuing scandal of carried interest. So there's a lot that we can do, starting with compliance. And that's, I think, where the debate should have its initial focus.
Things like carried interest, Mr. Secretary, clearly is requiring of a law change to get rid of. What about simple tax evasion? Is that a large part of what you're saying has been uncaptured, and what's it down to, and how is it resolved?
In order to address tax evasion, there's a bit that the IRS can probably do on its own, but fundamentally we will need a higher appropriation for the IRS. It doesn't make any sense that we have shrunk the tax base, the IRS, relative to tax collections by almost half over the last decade. And not very surprisingly, our enforcement revenue and our enforcement efficacy has come down as we've done that. So restoring the funding for a decently functioning IRS, addressing a situation that I think would seem unjust to almost every American, where people who get the earned income tax credit, none of whom make more than $50,000, are as likely to be audited as people with incomes over $500,000 a year. That can be true while the IRS directly measures that every hour, 1 hour, of audit labor spent on taxpayers with income over $5 million generates almost $5,000 in revenue. And that's before you take account of the fact that if people know there's going to be more auditing, they're going to be less prone to cheat. So if we simply don't try to crush government, but try to fund government, not in some new exotic big government way, but essentially in the way it was at the end of the George W. Bush administration, we can generate very substantial revenue, along with using modern technology to target that enforcement in better ways.
Yeah, and certainly the IRS, I mean, I don't know if you've been to their website lately, they could use a little modern technology for sure. Why do you think this hasn't been a bigger part of the conversation, and how likely do you think it is that we actually see some of this funding go to that agency, given the fact that Congress, as we speak, is in the process of pushing through another continuing resolution and can't even get the fiscal 2020 budget appropriated?
I think there are probably too many voices in Congress whose idea of low taxes is enabling people to not pay taxes they legally owe, and who want to have an IRS that's ineffective in enforcing the tax code. And I think that's very unfortunate for our country. I think there's some issues around congressional budget procedures. It seems to me that if you hire more auditors and you spend $100 and you bring in $700, that ought to show up in the budget like you've made $600 and reduced the deficit, rather than as it does under current law, like you've lost $100 because you've spent more. Those congressional budget procedures should be looked at. Will this happen? I can't predict. I certainly think it should happen, and with the right president and with the Treasury Secretary prepared to invest in this issue, and Office of Management and Budget prepared to make the case, this seems to me to be the lowest hanging fruit in terms of raising taxes from relatively high income people without introducing new distortions or raising tax rates or placing new burdens on the law-abiding.
Who is the right president?
Oh, I'm supporting a Democrat, and I think there are a number of very strong candidates on the Democratic side. I think Vice President Biden did an extraordinary job as vice president, and has the kind of temperament of inclusion that a badly divided and fractured country needs right now. And I think he's put forward sensible, pragmatic, highly progressive programs, far more dramatic than you've seen in any past campaign on climate change, for example. Very ambitious on making the tax system more progressive, and on making sure that the promise of universal health care is really delivered, but at the same time not declaring war on elements in our society that provide a large fraction of the jobs and that are necessary for our competitiveness. So I think that kind of approach that starts with the middle class, is very awareness of fairness, but doesn't engage in economic vilification as a strategy, is the right kind of strategy.
Larry, you tweeted recently that the combined tax impact of Elizabeth Warren's various plans is extreme. So which part of the plans would you keep, and what would you get rid of?
Oh, I think I'd rather start with my own plan rather than pick and choose. Essentially what Senator Warren's plans do, as I read them, is they go through every option that has been selected as the possible strategy for raising progressivity, and tries to do all of them at once. And when you try to do all of them at once, you're collecting essentially about as much taxes as the total after-tax AGI, adjusted gross income, of all the millionaires. And I don't think that taxation approaching confiscatory is remotely feasible, and if it was tried, would have catastrophic economic consequences.
Mr. Secretary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
It's time now for a CNBC News Update. Contessa Brewer has it for us. Hi, Contessa.
Wilfred, here's what's happening right now. The World Against Toys Causing Harm has unveiled its annual list of the most dangerous toys on the market. A realistic toy machine gun, a Nerf dart gun, and a plastic Power Rangers claw are among the toys topping the list.
Amazingly, we're still finding products like this. Now, I want to be very clear. What I'm holding, I know what it looks like, and it looks like a gun. It does not look like a toy. It is sold as a toy to children.
The City Council in Columbus, Ohio has approved a $450,000 settlement to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. She was arrested and charged with 3 misdemeanor sex offenses, allegedly for inappropriately touching an undercover female officer. Daniels sued after those charges were dropped. A copy of the Mona Lisa has sold for more than $600,000 at auction, more than 6 times the expected price. It went for sale at Sotheby's auction house in Paris. An art expert says the copy was probably painted 100 years after the original. It's a lot of money for a copy. And you know what? And they still don't know why she's smiling. Morgan?
Well, we said it last week. 100,000 was a lot for this copy.
Yeah,
600,000.
This is quite a bit of money right here. You don't even know who painted it. Nope. You just know it wasn't the original painter.
With an iPhone XR, you take a little photo of the original, and that's for free.
Well, you don't have to stare at it with all the crowds, I guess.
There's that.
Okay, Contessa Brewer, thank you. We've got less than 30 minutes left to go here. Here are the 3 things that are driving the action today. President Trump threatens higher tariffs if China does not make a trade deal. Retail is getting crushed. Names like Home Depot, Kohl's, Macy's, Nordstrom, all sharply lower. And while that might be a red flag for the U.S. consumer, housing data rebounded with building permits at their highest level in 12 years.
So to come, today marks 1 week since the launch of Disney Plus, and there have been many reports of hacked users. Those details when we come back.
And as we head to break, here's a check on bonds. U.S. Treasury yield slipping today for the second time this week, with the 10-year yield now under 1.8%. Closing bell, we'll be right back.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
Into the end zone, touchdown.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
He runs inside. He's got a 10, 5, touchdown!
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Indianapolis Colts visit the Houston Texans at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Firing, caught, 10, 5, touchdown!
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Whether you call yourself a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or something else, the road to 2020 is on TuneIn.
What a night! And a complete earthquake. This was
Follow every step of the Democratic primaries while hearing the latest headlines from the White House with live 24-hour news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News Talk, and more.
We're closing in on the first results in the battle for the White House.
Experience the election through the sources you trust with the nonstop news channels on TuneIn.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The war of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
To the sideline, the man fleet for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search NBA today to start listening.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to into the checkerboards, but he stays on his feet and scores.
Number 2 Ohio State looks to clinch the Big Ten Eastern Title Division outright and a spot in the Big Ten Conference Championship game as they host the 9th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in Columbus. This Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Penn State at Ohio State. Just search college to listen today.
Are you curious what others are listening to on TuneIn? Head to the trending section under Browse to see the most popular stations and podcasts among TuneIn listeners right now. Check it out. You might just discover something new for yourself.
Welcome back. We've got 25 minutes left to trade. Let's get over to Mike for the second installment of today's dashboard. Hi, Mike.
Hello, Wilf. This time we're trying never to forget exactly how far the stock market has come over this long number of years, especially during this bull market. Look at a 20-year chart of the S&P 500. Something kind of significant is perhaps on the verge of happening, which is a doubling in the S&P from its prior peak. Right here, 2007, October 2007. Peak in the S&P was 1565. Times 2, it's 3130. Today's high, 3127. Obviously, pretty steep angle of ascent, although I have to say, if we had this going before 2000, it would look similarly steep from a similarly low base. By the way, the peak in 2000 was only a few points below that. So essentially, you kind of had a flat line, really just a cyclical bull market, and then we got to double there. Now, is that going to matter? Is this really a technical indicator? Some folks out there suggesting maybe there's a muscle memory to the market. The Russell 2000 was capped at twice its prior peak, but we'll have to see about that. I want to drill in, though, the stocks versus bonds on a shorter-term basis. You'll remember yields started to go up, bond prices going down in August, and then stocks caught up. Well, look where we are. On a 6-month basis, you see stocks right here, bonds, long-term treasuries have come down a little bit in price, but now they're kind of going up in concert, kind of as they did for the first half of this year into July anyway. We'll see how this relationship goes. It seems like yields are getting a little bit lower than a lot of the stock bulls would like, but not yet at a critical threshold just yet, guys.
Mike, thank you very much for that. Steve, what's your take on that kind of trade-off at the moment, and how important are where yields are for the
there are two things.
Equity market?
First of all, there are half as many publicly traded stocks now as there were 15 years ago. So you have the scarcity effect that's helping to drive markets.
Such an incredible stat. It really is.
It is incredible. And it's continuing. M&A continues. In terms of bonds and stocks, there are only 3 periods since 1950 where stocks and bonds were down in the same year. More often, they're up in the same year. So it's not anything aberrational that we're seeing by the performance of both. In terms of the numbers, I don't think it means all that much. It's not where stocks have come from. You got to focus on where they're going and what's going to get you there. I think for now we're fine.
You mentioned M&A. Let's talk a bit more about that. U.S. M&A deals above $5 billion have soared this year, 26% higher year over year after hitting record levels in 2018. One bank capitalizing on renewed M&A enthusiasm is RBC, which advised 10% of U.S. deals so far this year. Joining us now from the RBC Tech, Internet, Media and Telecom Conference is Larry Grafstein, RBC's Deputy Chairman of Global Investment Banking. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us.
Nice to see you.
Let's start with a little summary of the current sentiment. So big deals are up year over year, though small deals in the US are not. And internationally, what's the outlook? Summarize where we are so far year to date.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's a bit of a bifurcated market. We like to segment the market among the bigger deals that you mentioned. So very robust this year. Dollar volume up year to date, 25% plus in the U.S. But total dollar volume is only up 4%, and that's because deals under $5 billion have actually been down. Also, when you look at Europe, and obviously it's facing its own types of challenges with negative interest rates and some political issues in certain markets, European large deal volume is down almost 50% year over year. And so when you look at the global M&A volume in total, total dollar volume is down about 8 or 9%. But it's been the U.S. big deals, which many of which have happened the first few months of this year, that have been driving total activity.
Larry, whether it's M&A activity or whether it's companies going public, how much hinges on the presidential election next year, and what does that mean in terms of the window?
Well, sometimes, these presidential elections can have somewhat counterintuitive effects. For example, we feel like it's a very good deal environment right now. Obviously, all-time equity highs. good time to sell a company. Also all-time or near all-time debt cost lows, a good time to invest in a company or borrow to do so. But when you look at 2020, obviously there's a big dispersion of potential policy outcomes between the current administration and possibly a Democratic administration. You were just talking to Larry Summers about tax reform, and if you look at 2020 and as we approach the new year, companies look at what might happen with tax reform. Would capital gains rates go up to equalize income, as some have suggested? Would total corporate tax rates go up, as some of the presidential candidates have suggested? How would the regulatory regimes in different industries, or certainly antitrust enforcement, how would that differ from, say, this year to the next administration? And if you believe that there's a chance that there could be, a difference, and you have a strategic move that you're interested in making, it may be necessary to think about executing on that in a 2020 timeframe. And as you all know, you can't just sell a company in 2 months. You have to. There's lead time for these things. So we might actually see a bit of an acceleration of activity, in anticipation of a political change.
Larry, how often does the China trade issue come into your conversations with CEOs in terms of whether they think tariffs are limiting what they're able to do if they stay for a long period of time? Is that a factor, or do they look way past that?
Well, it's a great question. I think most, corporate boardrooms where we're talking about these issues, they're concerned about the effects on supply chains. That's more of an internal issue than really the deal environment. I mean, China inbound M&A is obviously off considerably. You had a little bit of a sort of robust period there in 2015, 2016, before the Chinese themselves sort of pulled back. And just given the overall environment with issues around Huawei and the trade discussions, it's not a great environment for Chinese activity. That said, we just had Joe Tsai, the vice chairman of Alibaba, at our conference for lunch, and he was laying out, pretty optimistic perspective about the future U.S.-Chinese relationship, and also the opportunities that they have in the domestic Chinese economy. So I think it's an important topic because of the uncertainty and also the potential shifting of things like logistics and supply chains and suppliers. But in terms of the long-term macro effects, it's people are not really viewing that as a driver of deal activity, and certainly people aren't really looking to invest in China per se right now.
All right. Larry Grafstein, thanks for joining us today.
I'll tell you where they are investing right now. I'm involved in 3 different Chinese ARB situations where Chinese companies are acquiring U.S.-listed Chinese companies, and in some cases really ripping off shareholders because they own a controlling block and they control the board, and they're just saying, we're buying this, too bad, come sue us. And we're suing one right now, Ehai, which is the second largest car rental company in China. You had management and the Taylor family for Enterprise said, we'll buy it at $13.50, signed a deal to buy it. And C-Trip said, wait a second, we own 25%, we sit in the board, we don't agree. We'll pay $15.50. So they got together and they bought for $12.25, and it's worth $20. So you see more of that happening, which the SEC is taking notice of.
Well, we'll have to see whether the correct legal processes arise in the future. We've got much more, by the way, ahead from the RBC conference that we were just joined from, including Mack and Delrahim, the antitrust chief of the Department of Justice, about the antitrust probe into big tech and the DOJ's move to terminate long-standing legal rules for movie distribution. That's coming up today.
Yes, and up next, we've got your last chance trade, and Steve's looking at one retailer that's up nearly 70% so far this year. Stay with us.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can feel your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery is running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We can't in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
At Lidl, we're big on all those Christmas parties. The season to be jolly. Try our Party Time Indian snack selection for only $2.99. And our party time mac and cheese bites for just $1.90. Big on a Christmas you can believe it. Now that's big on quality and always little on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Tottenham and Edmonton from 10 p.m. on Friday the 22nd of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 25th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
You love TuneIn for live breaking news from CNN, MSNBC, Fox, CNBC, and more. But when you can't catch your favorite show as it airs, it might just be a click away as a podcast. Search your favorite news station to explore all the on-demand news shows on TuneIn.
Smart Sports Wagering Talk is now on TuneIn. This is Brett Musburger. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Search BETR. Be better informed. Be better prepared. And remember, cash and tickets is what it's all about.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. But he stays on his feet and scores.
Number 2 Ohio State looks to clinch the Big Ten Eastern Title Division outright and a spot in the Big Ten Conference Championship game as they host the 9th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in Columbus. This Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Penn State at Ohio State. Just search college to listen today.
Cuts back right into the end zone. Touchdown.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
He runs inside. He's got a 10-5 touchdown.
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Indianapolis Colts visit the Houston Texans at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Firing, caught, 10-5 touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
14 minutes left to go here in the trading session. The S&P is up 1 point right now. Steve, what's your last chance trade?
Target. So I don't typically do this. They're reporting earnings tomorrow. I own the stock. Been a nice gain. Didn't get all 70%, but I added to it this morning. I was hoping to be down more. I think it's a market share game. I love what Cornell's doing. Like Kramer said, Target's my last chance trade.
There we go. That's a pick for Steve ahead of earnings tomorrow. And don't miss an exclusive interview with the Target CEO, Brian Cornell, after the retailer reports earnings tomorrow morning on Squawk Box, 6:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Up next, we'll bring you uninterrupted coverage of the final minutes of trade, and we'll take you inside the market zone when Closing Bell returns.
It was Sophie's big day.
Cutting for the net. Scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Pascal gobbles up the rebound and slams it down.
Catch your favorite NBA team right here on TuneIn.
A step back, deep three is up and in.
Search NBA on TuneIn and hear all the action. The NBA lives on TuneIn.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, hook, into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Follow
Bayless.
at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Stuck in traffic during the big game? With TuneIn Premium, you can listen to your favorite NFL team on the go. No TV required. Even during rush hour, you won't miss a single touchdown. Listen to the NFL on TuneIn Premium today. Upgrade
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
In 3 minutes, we'll get you actual rates from multiple lenders. We could save you hundreds of dollars a month by refinancing to a lower rate. Don't get ripped off on your student loans. Let's focus on your future, not your debt.
Visit Credible.com and in 3 minutes, see how much you could save.
This is Kate. Hey. She takes 2 prescriptions. Kate's son Jack takes 1 too. Kate works hard and thought she had good insurance. But she still pays too much. That's no good. So Kate downloaded the GoodRx app. Now she can compare prescription prices to find the best discounts. She even beats her insurance price. Good for you, Kate. Good for you. GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today.
You should be mad at leaf blowers. You should be mad your neighbor always wants to hang out. And you should be mad your smart fridge is unnecessarily complicated. Making ice. But you're not mad because you have E-Trade, which isn't complicated. Their tools make trading quicker and simpler so you can take on the markets with confidence. Don't get mad. Get E-Trade and start trading commission-free today.
The Market Zone is sponsored by E-Trade. Get $100 on us when you deposit $5,000.
Just under 10 minutes left in the session. We're now in the closing bell Market Zone, commercial-free coverage of all the action as we head into the close.
CNBC senior markets commentator Mike Santoli is here to break down these crucial moments of the trading day. And today we've got Steve Weiss from Short Hills Capital Partners here as well. We're going to start with Home Depot. Stock plunging today on pace for its worst day in more than a year after missing revenue estimates and cutting its 2019 sales forecast, saying it would take more time than expected for its investments to pay off. Home Depot CEO Craig Menear pushed back on the notion that Home Depot's guidance cut was a result of macro pressures.
When we look at what happens in discretionary spend categories, particularly that are high-ticket discretionary spend, we don't see anything there that concerns us at this point.
Mike Santoli, I mean, it's been a bloodbath for retail stocks today. Even names that haven't reported earnings yet are selling off pretty steeply. Yeah. How much of this is Home Depot specific? How much of this is consumer?
I think it's not really consumer. I think it's Home Depot and more to the point, Kohl's. I think the market as a whole is taking those comments almost on face value to say this is not a macro story. This is not consumer fatigue. It is one Home Depot, which is just a crowded stock that went into this report at an all-time high, at a high valuation. That's fine. That's just a little repricing based on all those tactical dynamics. Kohl's, though, not a good number, dragging down department stores and kind of challenged structurally declining mall-based stores.
What's amazing about this is that CEOs don't usually take the hit. They say, oh, it was the macro environment, it wasn't us. And here it's the CEO saying, no, we're just rolling out, these changes a little more slowly. So said, I agree with you. I think got a little too frothy. Kohl's, for as long as I've been around, that company, it's always been a question, are they going to survive? Are they Sears? What are they going to do? Now, not in change, they're going out, but you see changes, they're moving slow. As I said, I prefer Target.
And Mike, the consumer discretionary sector itself is off its lows today. It bottomed the first hour of trade.
Yeah, if you get away from, as I said, those kind of beaten up mall-based retailers, which have a small market value, let's remember, it's obviously not spreading beyond that.
7 minutes or so left in the trading session. Qualcomm holding its analyst meeting today in New York. Let's get to John Fort, who spoke with the company's CEO. John.
Yeah, Wilf, the stock's struggling a bit, down not quite 3% on a day when the company is really focused on talking about growth. CEO Steve Mollenkopf telling me that the size of the market that Qualcomm's going to be able to address is going to grow 50% in 3 years. Take a listen.
It goes from $65 billion in 19 to $100 billion in 2022. So in really 3 years, it grows a dramatic amount. It just gives you the sense of how important 5G will be to Qualcomm's business. By the way, I also gave a number that said the total amount of economic impact of 5G in 2035 is going to be $13.2 trillion. So 5G is going to be an important thing. Qualcomm really at this point does not have an opportunity problem.
And Qualcomm's new CFO also breaking out for the first time how much revenue it's getting from platforms beyond the smartphone. Think cars, PCs, IoT. $3.4 billion in fiscal 2019 compared to $11.3 billion from phones, guys.
It was a great interview, John, on Squawk Alley earlier today. Thanks for bringing it to us. Steve, where do you stand on Qualcomm? And I guess even more broadly, just how big is the opportunity in 5G? Or have investors gotten their arms around it yet?
It's monstrous. So I've been doing a lot of work on 5G, and I did read Qualcomm's report, which talks about $13 trillion. Qualcomm has a great position there, but I own the SMH, which is the semi-index. I own Skyworks. I've seen other forecasts that say the spend just over the next 2 to 3 years is going to be $3 trillion for 5G. Put it this way, you cannot have autonomous cars without 5G because you need the lack of latency. And you're running out of capacity in your 4G networks, so 5G expands it by 100-fold. It's 10 times as fast. So I think Qualcomm is right in the sweet spot, as are many of the others. So it's a great space to be in.
Excuse me, moving on. It's been 1 week since Disney's new streaming service, Disney Plus, launched, and some user accounts have been hijacked, according to reports. User account information like emails and passwords began appearing on the dark web just hours after the service was rolled out and were being sold for as little as $3. Disney responded to the report saying it takes the privacy and security of our users' data very seriously, and there is no indication of a security breach on Disney Plus. Meantime, Credit Suisse out with a note saying that Disney Plus's launch has had little to no impact on Netflix user trends 1 week in. Mike, I guess a couple of at least reported and then denied teething problems as they launch, but the numbers remain enough to impress the market.
Right, and both of those problems as they're presented are actually reflections of extremely heavy demand and real quick uptake by consumers. So, I don't think right now it's not about how many people who want Disney Plus are actually paying the monthly fee. It's how many want it in aggregate, how many are eventually going to get it. And then the Netflix side, I don't think that's too surprising that people didn't rush out to immediately cancel Netflix. The question is, over time, does it create more churn? Does it really mean Netflix is pretty much at domestic saturation in terms of subscriber levels? But that's a longer term issue.
Yeah, why would you cancel Netflix when you're getting Disney Plus for free?
Many people
right?
are, yeah.
Right? A lot of people are. Like, I'm going to go on record here. I love free, and I'll do a lot of things for free, including Disney Plus. I don't have kids, but let's see how their content grows. I own the stock. I like it. I think it was getting a little rich, but I'm going to stay with it for the ride. I may start to shave it around 150 when we're close there.
Yeah, and it's streaming. It's not a zero-sum game. Shares of Slack, though, are down 50% from their all-time highs. Let's get to Leslie Picker for more on this story. Leslie.
Hey, Morgan, those all-time highs last seen the day of Slack's direct listing back in June when it reached $42 a share. Today, though, it's sinking about 8.5%, largely on competition concerns. Microsoft reported that it currently has 20 million daily active users on its Teams product, which competes with Slack's chat product, which had about 12 million daily active users in July. Now, Microsoft has been able to quickly ramp up its user base because companies that already subscribe to Office 365 get its Teams messaging service for free. Slack's growth, however, depends more on converting unpaid users to paid users, which can be a harder hurdle, analysts say. Guys.
Leslie, thanks so much for that. 2.5 minutes left to go at the moment. We've got All of the major indices just, the NASDAQ is still higher, but the Dow and the S&P now just lower. Mike, you've been looking at the internals.
Yeah, overall breadth is about even, but look at the new highs versus new lows. New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, there's still a kind of stubbornly high number of new 52-week lows, more than 100 on each the NYSE and the NASDAQ. It doesn't necessarily mean that the overall market's going to roll over, but it does suggest there's an undertow down there. A lot of energy in retail, a stealth pullback happening. Also, Russell 2000 is on the verge of breaking above a long-term ceiling in its range. We'll see if that can happen. You see how high the ultimate high was back in 2018.
Less than 2 minutes to go here. Let's send it over to Rick Santelli for a check on bonds. Rick.
You know, what a tale of two cities, or in this case, two maturities. Look at intraday of two-year note yields. We are now unchanged on the day. You go out to the long end 30-year bonds, they're down 5 basis points, and that's off the low yields of the day. Finally, let's look at the 10-year. If you start at the third week in October, you could clearly see we're getting very close to testing some of the lowest yields for November. And this is despite the best permits at 1.46 million seasonally adjusted annualized units in 12 years. Now we're going to go to the NASDAQ and Frank Holland, where we are now up month to date close to 3.5%.
Hey there, Rick. Lucky number 13 on the NASDAQ. Another fresh record close. AMD, the biggest gainer, seeing a more than 3.5% gain. Also, Broadcom up more than 2% after a Morgan Stanley upgrade, but chips overall down very slightly. Great day for biotech, however. That ETF up 2%. Vertex, the best performer after a Guggenheim upgrade. We're also looking at Altria, not a NASDAQ stock, but worth looking at. Those shares down more than 2.5% today after the New York Attorney General announced it is suing Juul for its marketing practices towards minors. California announced a similar lawsuit yesterday. Altria owns a 35% stake in Juul, and its shares have fallen about 18% since the first vaping illness was reported. Now over to Bob Pisani at the New York Stock Exchange.
The entire decline in the Dow Jones Industrial Average is due to Home Depot. More than 90 points of that decline is due to that. S&P 500, we're taking bets on whether we can get into positive territory. It's exactly flat, down a fraction of a point right now. We'll see if they can do that. It's been trending up in the last couple minutes. There's the closing bell. Dow Jones Industrial Average down 100 points.
To the closing bell. I'm Wilfred Frost.
And I'm Morgan Brennan in for Sarah Eisen, along with Mike Santoli, CNBC's senior markets commentator.
Let's check in how the markets closed. The NASDAQ, another fresh record all-time closing high, though the Dow down 100 points, selling off a little bit into the close, as you can see, not too far off the lows of the session, which was down 141. Also saw the S&P just in the red, down by 6 basis points. The Russell outperformed today, up 0.4%. Energy, the worst performing sector. Healthcare, the best.
Volatility was low. The S&P 500 hasn't moved 1% in either direction since October 11th, just to give you a sense of the types of moves we've been seeing in this market. Joining us to talk about the market day, Stephen Weiss, founder and managing partner at Short Hills Capital Partners, is still with us, along with Charlie Babrinskoy, vice chairman and head of investment at Ariel Investments. Mike Santoli, though, let's start with you. Taking a little breather off of the record highs we've scratched or clawed onto in the last couple days.
Yeah, really just kind of trudging to marginal new highs in the last few days. The market does hold together on the index level. I do think that's one of the takeaways. The other is there were excuses to sell off if you wanted them today. The president had some, further static on the trade wars and all the rest of it. I don't really think you can draw too many conclusions, but you are seeing some wear and tear. As I mentioned, a lot of new 52-week lows, a little bit of fatigue evident in parts of the market. But right now, it's just being kind of solved through going sideways as opposed to pulling back.
Charlie, would you take your profits for this year at this stage?
No. There's still great value in value. Mike just said that there are pockets that are hitting new highs, and value is finally starting to catch up versus growth. We think next year is going to be a much better year from the economy. We think we're finally going to get a trade deal, which will be great for some of these cyclical stocks. So now is not the time to be selling 12 PE stocks because the S&P has a lot of 20 times stocks.
Steve, I'll put the same question to you.
No, I mean, you're seasonally in a great spot with the market moving higher. You've got a coordinated, synchronized global easing. The Fed's on hold. So why would you? There's nothing out there right now other than the risk that a Chinese deal does not get signed and that we ratchet up the tariffs, which you have to have a view on to be in the market. My view is that we keep kicking the can down the road. Perhaps we sign it, but nothing dramatic or traumatic is going to happen. So I'm keeping my chips in. Now, having said that, I did sell the XBI, so it's only natural it traded up nicely today. Biotech. It's a biotech index like the IBB that we showed. So I think you have to be somewhat disciplined as an investor and take profits where you've exceeded your price targets rather than having a higher price target like we see the sell side often do because they don't want to get off the train.
Now, the Nasdaq hit a record high again today at the close, but the Russell 2000 still trading below its record high reached last year. A new note from Bank of America is bullish on small caps, saying that the U.S. market is about to enter a recovery phase and that small caps lead large caps 90% of the time during this phase. Mike, the Russell obviously has lagged for quite some time, playing a little bit of catch-up of late, but not breaking out in the way that we've seen the others.
It's trying, and it looks very much in tune with all the other calls and all the other messages that the market is trying to send, which is cyclical stocks doing better, financials doing somewhat better since August, even global stocks doing better. That tells you the market is attempting to handicap an upturn, a reacceleration in macro growth. If that were to happen, the Russell is right there ready to ride along with it. And I do think also small caps are usually cheaper than large caps, but now they're even cheaper than they usually are.
Yeah, Charlie, given the fact that we have seen something of a rotation into value in recent weeks, and given that underperformance we've seen in small caps, would you be making investments here in this part of the market?
Absolutely, and full disclosure, Ariel, my firm is famous for small cap value investing, so this is when we get very excited. Over the last 100 years, finance professionals have pointed out that small cap tends to outperform large cap and that value outperforms growth. And the last 10 years have been this extraordinary anomaly where neither of those two things has happened. And as a result, we think that small cap is very well positioned, particularly small cap value.
Charlie, where are you on some of those financial services company you've recommended to us in the past? Not the banks, but private equity asset managers. Do you feel like they've run up enough?
Thanks, Will, for pointing that out. Yeah, I mean, Blackstone made an incredible move this year, up almost 80%, 75%, when they converted into a C Corp from a partnership. KKR is still attractive at only 14 multiple. The name we're pounding the table on is Lazard. Lazard is trading at 10 times earnings because M&A is depressed, emerging markets haven't kept up. So Lazard at 10 times earnings, it's still a partnership. It can't be owned by a lot of the index funds. That's the name we're pounding the table on.
Let's send over to Bob Pisani for a look at today's biggest movers. Bob?
And the big thing here was Home Depot was the main reason the Dow was down. Almost 90 points was at Home Depot, but it had all sorts of ripple effects on the retail space from everything. Big Lots, for example, down 6.5%. Bed Bath & Beyond, BBBY, also had a very weak day. Most of these stocks have had a tough time throughout the year, but you can see it especially today. Nordstrom, JWN, another tough year for them, but down notably today as well. Right across the board, Dillard's the same situation. All the department stores also weak. This is what we call the nightmare for the brick and mortar stores overall. Inability to grow, you have soft traffic, and you have little or no sales growth. A lot of these companies having the same problem, so not just a particular problem with Kohl's today. Guys, back to you.
Steve, in addition to Home Depot, shares of Boeing weighed on the Dow as well. Started the day higher, and then we got some more negative headlines tied to safety for the 737 NG, I believe it was, aircraft. You've been a shareholder in this name. Your take?
Yeah, and I was on the show on the day when all the bad news came out and traded down to 320 or something, 330, and I said step up here. And I think you can still step up here. There are only two competitors, right? There's Airbus and there's Boeing. And guess what? Airbus couldn't even meet their delivery schedule. So I'm not worried about people getting on the plane on the MAX because that's going to be the safest plane out there with all the eyes on it. That's a bet the company type of plane. So look, I still think you can buy Boeing here. I personally have enough of it, so I'm not buying anymore. But sure, it's a great stock. I'd own it.
Mike, we bring up this point a lot that when yields don't rise on the long end, the market struggles. Applies again today.
Yeah, I have to say, the curve is flattened too, right? So Rick was just talking about that. I think it's getting near a level where maybe it's going to get investors' attention a little more. If yields continue lower, if you go down below 1 3/4 decisively on the 10-year, it's going to really upend this story that the overall markets are indicating a much quicker pace of activity, economic activity. We're not there yet. I still do think there's a little bit of noise in what's happening in terms of the there you see 178. So, but it did hold the overall market in check, at least partly.
We've got an earnings alert on Urban Outfitters. Courtney Reagan's got it for us. Hey, Court.
Hi, Wilf. Yeah, so we have a slight miss here on earnings for Urban Outfitters, coming in at 56 cents a share. The street was looking for 57 cents. Revenue is also a hair light at $987 million. The street was looking for about $1 billion there. Comparable sales altogether for the total company, all the brands up 3%, slightly better than expected. By brand, Free People by far the strongest, up 9%. Anthropologie comparable sales up 4%. And Urban Outfitters, the mainstay brand, those were flat. They do note negative store sales, positive online digital sales. And for the fourth quarter here, the only real guidance we have is a quote from the CEO, Richard Hayne, that says, looking ahead to Q4, we are encouraged by positive sales to date, but realize our highest volume days have yet to be written. So it doesn't tell us a whole lot, but at least sales there are positive quarter to date for the fourth quarter. Shares, though, of Urban Outfitters are down sharply here in reaction, almost 11%. Back over to you.
Courtney, thank you. Steve, I think this goes back to the conversation we were having earlier. Winners and losers in retail right now, right?
Yeah, there are. But how crazy is that? They missed by a penny. They missed by, not even 1% on the top line. There's no surprise in the same-store sales. And the stock's being sold. It's just who's selling it? I'll tell you who's selling it. The algos are reading the release as soon as it comes out. They have what they expect, and it didn't hit. So the machines go and they sell the stock. These are generally opportunities. Now, I'm not involved in the name. I have no interest in being involved in the name. But if I were looking at it, I would step up right here. That's what I did on Adobe when it got hit, when you have all these releases, and you get rewarded.
I don't think you have high conviction shareholder bases in any store, mall-based kind of chain retail right now, specialty retail. Stock was kind of destroyed from 45 down to 20 in August, went up 50% in the overall rally, August up to recently, and now it's given back, a quarter of that gain or half of that gain.
We will leave it there, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us, Stephen Weiss and Charlie Brabinskoy. Still to come here on Closing Bell, Makan Delrahim, the antitrust chief of the Department of Justice, will join us to weigh in on the regulation of big tech.
And later, our journey through Space Week continues when we talk to the administrator of NASA. He'll tell us what trends investors need to watch. Coming up, Closing Bell is back in 90.
This CNBC program.
At Lidl, we're big on those little reasons to be jolly. Like our delicious Favorina all-butter mini Stollen bites for just $1.99. And 6 deluxe mince pies for just $1.35. Big on a Christmas you can believe in. Now that's big on quality and always Lidl on price. Subject to availability, selected stores excludes an eye.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Welcome back to Closing Bell. Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for his third dashboard of the day. Mike.
Morgan, one big question in markets and elsewhere, union or division. There was an op-ed by Carl Icahn in the Washington Post, or the Wall Street Journal rather, today, about some maybe efforts on the SEC that he sees as hostile to activist investing regarding proxy advisory. Well, look how activist investors have done relative to the S&P 500 in recent years. Not very well. Activist hedge funds are in yellow right here. 2 years they outperformed. 2015 and 2016, that was kind of the heyday of activism going out saying companies should recapitalize or break up or change their strategy. It's been pretty poor in the last couple of years. Now, take a look at the spin-off stock index. This is an exchange-traded fund. CSD is the symbol. It's recent spin-offs, how they perform relative to the market. You see, that also basically peaked a couple of years ago. It's been an awful performer. Historically, spin-offs have been very good performers, long-term, a lot of hedge funds involved. Maybe this has something to do with it. There is a theory out there going around that perhaps activists forcing spin-offs of bad bad businesses is thwarting spin-off returns out there. That's something that Boyer Value has put out there. So kind of an interesting symbiosis right there in terms of activists and how they perform.
Going back to the hedge fund performance, I mean, last year's got to be the worst of all of those pretty poor years of performance.
For activists?
For activists, given that it's down year, they're meant to outperform the market in that year, in particular, when it's a down year.
Well, for activists in particular, yeah. I mean, activists are not saying, oh, we're just going to preserve your capital. They're saying we are going to create good, absolute positive returns. That's right. They have not done so. It seems like maybe it got a little bit too crowded of an area and a lot of assets thrown in it, and companies are better defending themselves.
Mike, thank you. So to come, Justice Department Antitrust Chief Macon Delrahim will discuss the latest on the probe into big tech companies.
Plus, NASA announcing partnerships with 5 commercial space companies, including SpaceX and Blue Origin, to take cargo and people to the moon. NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine joins us exclusively, coming up on the Closing Bell.
At Asda this Christmas, treat them to a gift or 2, or 3, with 3 for 2 on a wide range of beauty and toiletry gift sets from Dove, Lynx, Bayliss and Harding and many more. Asda, let's make Christmas extra special. Selected stores and lines subject to availability. Individual prices £1 to £20, cheapest item free.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Smart Sports Wagering Talk is now on TuneIn. This is Brett Musburger. The Better Network is now on TuneIn. Search BETR. Be better informed. Be better prepared. And remember, cash and tickets is what it's all about.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 Podcasts, Season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 Podcasts on TuneIn.
On the goal line, scores! He takes it home! Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Gonna move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Some days life can get in the way of catching up on the news that moves your world. TuneIn is here to help. With live 24/7 coverage from CNN wherever you go on the TuneIn app, you can always find a slice of your schedule, however long, to check in on the biggest stories of the day.
Hell hath no fury. The president's counselor went on a rampage on a taped phone call with Washington Examiner reporter.
Search CNN on TuneIn to get the live news when it matters most.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Welcome back. A key Fidelity executive involved in overseeing investments in WeWork and Uber is leaving the company. Leslie Pickard joins us with more. Leslie.
Andy Boyd is leaving Fidelity to start his own fund. Now, while he didn't actually manage money for Fidelity, he analyzed deals and negotiated terms on behalf of the firm's portfolio managers that wanted to buy stakes in private companies. A Fidelity spokesman confirmed in a statement that after 15 years at Fidelity, Boyd decided to leave the firm to pursue other professional interests. He added that a successor will be named in the near future. Fidelity owns equity of pre-IPO companies, including WeWork, 23andMe, Juul, and SpaceX, as well as those that recently went public like Uber and Peloton. But many of those holdings have had to be written down by the firm. Boyd joins several of his private investing peers in leaving established investment firms to start their own funds. For example, earlier this year, Henry Ellenbogen departed T. Rowe Price and Lee Fixell left Tiger Global. Guys.
Leslie Picker, thank you. Still ahead, we're going to discuss a recent NASA report that SpaceX flights to send astronauts to the International Space Station are significantly cheaper than Boeing flights.
And we will also discuss that news exclusively with NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine when we come back.
Is the monolithic view of emerging markets obsolete?
Christmas is such a magical time of year for little ones. But why should the big kids miss out? This season, take the family to Santa's Wonderlab at West London Audi. You get to test drive the latest Audi models, and the children get to test drive the latest toys with Santa. There's something for the whole family. Visit santaswonderlab.com to find out more about how to register for your place at Santa's Wonderlab this Christmas.
Cutting for the net, scores! On the goal line, Marchand scores!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
And tucks it home!
And with this team, it's really fun to be a part of a team like that.
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium. From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
Far wing elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for three.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Pump fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
block.
NBA today to start listening.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. But he stays on his feet and scores.
Number 2 Ohio State looks to clinch the Big Ten Eastern Title Division outright and a spot in the Big Ten Conference Championship game as they host the 9th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in Columbus. This Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Penn State at Ohio State. Just search college to listen today.
Is on pace for its best year in a decade, with the sector up more than 40% year to date. The rally comes despite big tech giants such as Google and Facebook facing increased regulatory scrutiny from the Justice Department and the Federal Trade Commission. Joining us now in a CNBC exclusive is Macon Doherty, Assistant Attorney General and Head of the DOJ's Antitrust Division. He joins us now from the RBC Tech Conference. Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Doherty, and thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
I wanted to start with a big picture question, if I may, around the topic of tech regulation, and that is whether or not, if the US doesn't act sooner rather than later, we'll see other geographic areas like the EU move well ahead in regulating tech companies, which tend to be US-based, of course, and that will leave the US being a follower in terms of tech regulation rather than a leader.
Well, I don't know if that would be accurate. We all look at the facts and the law relevant in our jurisdictions. As the Deputy Attorney General has announced, we are moving full speed ahead, but we have to wait and see what the investigation reveals. We look at the facts and the laws as applicable in the United States.
Review of tech platforms could reach beyond antitrust issues. Those were the comments yesterday. How and what would that mean in terms of the reviews that your team specifically is undergoing right now?
So the Antitrust Division is focused on the antitrust aspect and the competition effects of our investigation. But as I'll refer you to the Deputy Attorney General Jeff Rosen's comments, about the, what other policy implications there might be. What he said was that, should there be other areas, there'll be policy tools that could address that. For example, privacy, consumer protection, and other areas.
Well, when we talk about consumer data privacy and the potential misuse of it, is that a factor for you to consider, whether directly or indirectly it comes to antitrust?
Sure. So as I have discussed this recently, the possession of data, we view data as other assets, but you could have data, and the question is a company that has market power use that data to either maintain or has perhaps acquired that market power through the abuse of it? So we'll have to take a look to see how it affects the competitive landscape, but we also have to be careful because all data is not created equal. There's, user data, which is, our information, email, cell phone, name, and others, where many people could have. But then there's also usage data, which is very specific during a period of time that might be much more unique. And there's a lot of other types of data that different companies have. So we are focused on that, and not all data is created equal.
We've seen a number of big cap tech companies that are under investigation or under antitrust scrutiny right now continue to make deals. Facebook acquiring Control Labs, Alphabet acquiring Fitbit. And I realize some of those deals aren't necessarily tied to the areas of the businesses within those companies that are being probed. But does it alarm you to see the deal making continuing among some of these big companies, given the fact that previous deals are part of what's being scrutinized now in terms of how they got to their market dominance?
Well, I think it depends on the character of those deals. I won't comment on any specific deals or any specific company, but some transactions may not pose the same competitive harm, than some other ones that might actually either be a competitive threat to those companies or combined together, they might pose other types of competitive harm. So not everyone. There was an exchange that Chairman Cicilline and I had last week at the House Judiciary Committee where he suggested or hypothesized, should there be a moratorium on these companies making any acquisitions? And I said no, because some of the acquisitions could actually be pro-consumer and pro-competitive. So we have to take a look at all transactions, but it's an area that many people are discussing and considering.
Do you welcome the state AG's separate investigation at the moment into Google, or do you wish that things were progressing as one?
Well, things are progressing largely in concert with each other. We have a great working relationship with the state AGs. Many of them have very capable offices, and I think everybody is rowing in the right direction. And we have, confidentiality agreements in place. So we are working closely together. We'll see how, those investigations develop. Sometimes state AGs and the federal enforcers don't always see eye to eye at the end of an investigation than they do in the beginning. Sprint T-Mobile merger is a perfect example of that. But we'll see. I think at this stage, we're working well together, and I think there's a lot of value they can add to the investigation. Most importantly, I think what it shows is that, there's broad bipartisan interest and concern about the competitive effects of some of these companies.
When you look back at antitrust investigations into another tech company, Microsoft, a couple of decades ago, that basically stretched out for years, if not decades. How long would you expect these probes to last for the tech companies under scrutiny now?
It's really hard to take a guess at that. I think, like I said, there's a lot of resources that we have devoted to it, but these are complicated and they're fact intensive. These are markets that are within themselves, they're quite complicated. So we're taking the time to do it right. We don't have any preconceived conclusions at this stage, and so we are working towards that. Microsoft took a number of years. You might recall that was one where the Federal Trade Commission had started an investigation. They ended up deadlocking 2-2, and the Justice Department took that on. And, state AGs were involved as well back then. Now Senator Richard Blumenthal was then a AG of Connecticut, and he was quite active on those matters.
I wanted to move on, Mr. Delrahim, if I may, and talk about banks and the financial sector. You've approved the BB&T SunTrust merger. I think the Federal Reserve literally just approved it also. It's a different type of market where there are thousands and thousands of banks. How do you think about it when you see what were the 16th and 17th biggest banks merged to become the 7th or 8th biggest bank, and the way that would damage competition for the thousands that remain smaller than they are, compared to enhancing the competition with the 5 or 6 that are bigger? How do you weigh that up?
So as you know, we look at the overall market as well as the local markets where some of these banks will play. And our role is an advisory role to the FDIC, the Fed, OCC, and the other banking regulators under the banking laws. And that was one where it took us a little bit of time, but we worked closely with the banks, both sides, as well as the divestiture buyer. And we came to a conclusion that in certain markets, there were some branches and assets that would hurt either the retail or the small business market, and we were able to get a divestiture that addressed our competitive concerns. And we worked closely with the divestiture buyer that was identified by the banks to acquire those. And I think together they will preserve the competitive elements, but also the merger itself will they'll make them a stronger competitor because they'll be able to put in the new resources, the technology advancements, as well as the improvements that they need. So we're very pleased with the way that this ended for this transaction.
So would you be open to further consolidation across the banking industry? A lot of banking experts and CEOs talk about the need for broader consolidation. Would you welcome that?
Well, I'll leave it to the banking regulators to see if that improves the health of the banking sector. From a competition standpoint, we'll take a look and evaluate each transaction on its own merits and the facts that they present to see whether or not it would violate the antitrust laws and what remedies there would be. But, I only enforce the laws. I don't actually make the deals there. So to the extent that they don't harm the consumer, we would welcome those transactions if they actually benefit the consumer.
And just to shift gears again, the Justice Department asking court to scrap the decades-old Paramount antitrust decrees. Would we be having this conversation? Would the DOJ be looking at the undoing of these 50-year-old plus rules if it wasn't for the meteoric rise of streaming?
We probably would, because the markets, of the exhibitors, that market has shifted, as has the production companies. So just to, for the purpose of your viewers, those consent decrees were really settlements that the Justice Department had with those 5 studios, Paramount and a few others that existed back then. And it was to resolve an antitrust case the Justice Department brought in 1938. And then these were resolved in 1948. And since then, through these decrees, that business has been regulated this way. And I just thought we should take a look at all these holistically and see if it actually makes sense. And in our determination, it didn't seem like our continued involvement in those consent decrees actually made sense in the marketplace. They actually might be preventing innovation that could occur that consumers could very much enjoy.
Megan Delrahim, thank you for joining us here on CNBC. Megan Delrahim, the antitrust chief at the DOJ. Appreciate your time.
Thanks so much for having me.
It is time now for a CNBC News Update with Bill Griffith. Hey, Bill.
Thank you, Morgan. Here's what's happening at this hour. At least one person was killed, 8 others injured in clashes between Bolivian security forces and supporters of former President Evo Morales. That was near a major fuel plant The violence occurred after some Bolivian cities reported food and gasoline shortages because of demonstrations by pro-Morales groups. New York is the latest state now to sue Juul Labs, saying that the e-cigarette maker used deceptive and misleading marketing practices. The Attorney General, Letitia James, announced the lawsuit, saying the company violated state law by marketing to minors.
It misrepresented the safety and the therapeutic value of its products by saying they were safer than cigarettes and suggesting that consumers make the switch, when in reality, Juul's products contain significant amounts of nicotine and are not cessation devices.
And finally, Daytona International Airport was evacuated this morning after a suspicious item was flagged during a security check. Turns out it was a bottle of lotion. After about an hour, the bag was cleared and normal operations resumed. You three have a lovely rest of the day. See you later.
You too, Bill. Thank you so much,
Thank
Bill
you.
Griffith. It was another explosive day of testimony in the House impeachment inquiry hearings. Elon Moy has the details for us. Hi, Elon.
Hi, Wilfred. Well, committee chairman Adam Schiff and his chief counsel are in the middle of questioning the two afternoon witnesses. One of them is Timothy Morrison, a former NSC official who was listening in on that July 25th phone call. Afterward, he asked the NSC lawyers to review the written record of the call and restrict access to it.
I feared at the time of the call on July 25th how its disclosure would play in Washington's political climate. My fears have been realized.
The other witness testifying is Kurt Volker, the former special envoy to Ukraine. He defended his role and said that he never knowingly participated in any effort to get Ukraine to investigate Vice President Biden. He said in his mind there was a sharp distinction between investigating Burisma and investigating Biden, and the latter, guys, he said, would have been unacceptable. Back over to you.
Elon Moy, another busy day in D.C. Thank you for bringing us the latest.
Still ahead, home building permits surging to a 12-year high. How that could impact economic growth coming up.
Plus, we speak exclusively to NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine on the mission to return astronauts to the moon.
CNBC News Up.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard. Somebody stays on his feet and scores.
Number 2 Ohio State looks to clinch the Big Ten Eastern Title Division outright and a spot in the Big Ten Conference Championship game as they host the 9th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in Columbus. This Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Penn State at Ohio State. Just search college to listen today.
Right now, instead of hearing this, you could be listening to the music that keeps you moving with TuneIn Premium. Find today's biggest songs and all of your favorites commercial-free. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
From ESPN and the award-winning producers of The Sterling Affairs comes the latest season of 30 for 30 podcasts. 4 brand new stories of espionage.
He wanted this team to be the Barcelona of women's basketball.
Resilience.
I started to scream. I tried to get away.
Corruption.
It's the culture of win at all costs.
And rebirth.
How will we ever rebuild it?
30 for 30 Podcasts, Season 6. Listen now to 30 for 30 Podcasts on TuneIn.
Want to hear about the latest and greatest things to listen to on TuneIn? For reminders of the biggest live sports games, debates, and breaking news stories, follow @TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay connected with the audio that matters to you.
In case you didn't know, TuneIn lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio, except you can hear them from anywhere. If you want to find a station from somewhere else in the world, navigate to the By Location section under Browse. Keep exploring with TuneIn.
To LeBron, slam dunk.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. James Harden and the Houston Rockets are in LA to take on Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Harden pulls back, trying to make it 11-2. Kawhi Leonard is all over the place.
This Friday, the Houston Rockets are at the LA Clippers. Tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
Hey, NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
New partnerships with commercial space companies, adding Elon Musk's SpaceX and Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin to the growing ranks of partners in NASA's Artemis program, which aims to send large payloads and eventually people back to the moon by 2024. Joining us now in the latest installment of our Watch This Space series is the man behind the Artemis program, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. He's at the CME Global Financial Leadership Conference and joins us now. Administrator, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
So I think I need to start with the money trail here for Artemis. We've got, as we speak, lawmakers voting on another continuing resolution to keep the government funded. But even as we see that move forward, the fact that we don't have the fiscal 2020 budget appropriated, how much of that is a challenge to being able to see this 2024 deadline met for Artemis?
Well, it is definitely a challenge, but I will tell you, I really do have confidence that in December, I think that an appropriation bill will be complete. I will tell you that this is not unusual. I was in the House of Representatives myself. After the fiscal year began, we were in CRs until right before Christmas, pretty much every year. So I am not losing hope, and I will tell you that the Artemis program has strong bipartisan support. People are excited about going forward to the moon sustainably, going with commercial partners, going with international partners, and indeed going now to the surface of the moon with the first woman in history. So this has strong bipartisan support, and I really believe that we will have an appropriation bill before the end of the calendar year.
Administrator, can I ask a big picture question and perhaps expose my ignorance in front of the space expert Morgan next to me? But what is the ultimate point of going back to the moon again? I guess 50 years ago there was a point in just going there for the sake of it. There's surely no point in going for the sake of it again. Why do we need to get men and women back on the moon?
We don't go for the sake of it. I want to be really clear. When we talk about what we got out of the Apollo program, a lot of people watching this are going to watch on DirecTV or Dish Network. Maybe some people are going to see it via internet broadband from space. I come from Oklahoma. A lot of rural Oklahomans get their internet from space, and they're going to watch this program on the internet from space. We talk about XM radio. Maybe people are going to listen on XM radio. The way we navigate, look at GPS, a capability for navigation created by this little agency called NASA, now operated by the Department of Defense. We look at how we predict weather, how we understand climate, how we do disaster relief. In fact, look at every banking transaction in the United States of America dependent on that timing signal from GPS. Look at the regulation of flows of electricity. But that doesn't
need another man on the moon.
No. So what matters is what we get from exploring space. We get new technologies, we get new capabilities, and when we look at the investments of the United States of America, those investments in space return many, many, many times what the investment actually is. It's not like really any other government program. It's a program that results in American greatness. It results in exports. Here we are at the Global Financial Leadership Conference, and we were just on stage talking with people about how right now the United States of America has 60% of the market share when it comes to launch. That is happening because of investments done by NASA. So that is a net export for the United States of America. At a time when we have trade deficits, and everybody is aware, my boss is worried about trade deficits. We're bringing America back from a launch perspective, but also from a communication perspective, from a navigation perspective, even from weather. NASA is involved in all these things, and we're going to lead the world, which is what people expect from us.
Yeah, investments from NASA, also increasingly from commercial space companies as well. And I know you just announced yesterday the selection of more companies that are going to participate in the Commercial Lunar Payload Services project. But in terms of the rocket that's going to take people back to the moon, SLS, Space Launch System, it represents kind of an older business model, if you will, for NASA. It's contracted out to Boeing, but it's developed and owned by NASA. Will this be the last launch vehicle that we see that be the case for?
Well, I think the SLS rocket is going to have staying power. It's going to be around for a long time because the cost of development is significant. But here's what's exciting right now. When we go to the moon this time, we're going to have a space station in orbit around the moon called the Gateway. And the SLS rocket is going to take the Orion crew capsule with American astronauts to orbit around the moon on what is called the Gateway, which is this space station in orbit around the moon. And then we're going to have commercial landers, as you identified. A lot of excitement around commercial activities. The president likes to say, rich guys love rockets. Well, we're giving rich guys, and by the way, private equity and even institutional investors opportunities to partner with NASA in these capabilities in a way where NASA is a customer, not the owner and operator. SLS is, as you mentioned, it's been under development now for almost a decade, but we're on the 5-yard line about to punch it into the end zone. But when we go to the moon, we're going to need to take payloads to the surface of the moon, payloads to the Gateway and orbit around the moon. Those payloads are going to be delivered by commercial rockets, and we're going to have commercial landers going back and forth reusably to the surface of the moon. Here's the thing. We're leading a coalition of nations back to the moon sustainably. In other words, this time we're going to stay. It's the United States of America leading the world, and I think that's an exciting thing. And yes, commercial partners are important because they're going to go get customers that are not NASA. And that drives down our costs, it increases access, and it preserves American leadership.
Got to get your thoughts on Virgin Galactic going public here at the New York Stock Exchange a couple weeks ago. First publicly traded space tourism company, how closely are you watching that situation, and how do you think it reflects back on broader human spaceflight? Do you see it as a positive, or do you see it as something that could present some higher risks and challenges?
Oh, we are so proud of them, and we want them to be successful. In fact, their very first flight with humans, in fact, it had NASA payloads on board. We want to partner with commercial industry. We want them to be successful because NASA has a goal. Our goal is to be one customer of many customers in a robust commercial marketplace, driving down cost and increasing access. But we also want to have numerous providers that are competing against each other on cost and innovation. And that's how we create this marketplace that is sustainable. The president wants to go sustainably to the moon. This is an example of how we develop sustainable economies where NASA can be a customer and have more access than ever before.
All right. We didn't even get to commercial.
And by the way, when all those tourists sign up to do those activities, it drives down our costs.
Good to know. Well, we didn't even get to commercial crew, but I have a feeling you and I will maybe have a chance to discuss that before the year is out. Jim Bridenstine, Administrator of NASA, thanks for joining us today. Tomorrow, our Watch This Space series continues. Always outspoken, Chamath Palihapitiya, speaking of Virgin Galactic, now a space investor, chairman of Virgin Galactic, will join us tomorrow on the closing bell. Don't miss it.
Don't want to miss that one for sure. Up next, building permits soared today. Mike Santoli's going to head to the telestrator with what that says about economic growth.
So, Schwab, tell me about... When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip
Bayless. Follow and TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn. The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
The sideline, the man bleeds for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on
Search
the right.
NBA today to start listening.
College football is live on TuneIn. Listen for free to games from more than 140 schools all season long.
To the 10, all the way to the checkerboard, but he stays on his feet and scores.
Number 2 Ohio State looks to clinch the Big Ten Eastern Title Division outright and a spot in the Big Ten Conference Championship game as they host the 9th-ranked Penn State Nittany Lions in Columbus. This Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Listen to every call and every game of your school all season long for free on TuneIn. Penn State at Ohio State. Just search college to listen today.
Did you know your favorite radio stations are in your pocket? Yes, the TuneIn app lets you listen to the same radio stations you pick up on your home or car radio anywhere you want. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
Into the end zone, touchdown.
NFL fans, hear every live game on TuneIn Premium.
He runs inside. He's got a 10, 5, touchdown.
This Thursday, hear the home and away call as the Indianapolis Colts visit the Houston Texans at 8:20 p.m. Eastern.
Firing, caught, 10, 5, touchdown.
At home or on the go, hear the home and away call of every NFL game this season on TuneIn Premium. Upgrade today.
Let's send it over to Mike Santoli for his final dashboard of the day. Mike.
Morgan, unfinished work, which were 2 of the 272 words in the Gettysburg Address, which was delivered today, 156 years ago.
Look
it was
at
a
that.
tough one. It was a tough one today.
That was tricky.
However, also a lot of
What's
unfinished
embarrassing
work.
is I think you did this a full year ago.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think we were doing dashboards a year ago.
Well,
It's embarrassing for me.
In any case, there were other American history ones. Unfinished work on building lots. So good building permits numbers. Here is a chart of the contribution to GDP, a net contribution to residential investment. And what you see here is obviously it's been positive but small. Most of this expansion, here we do. Nosed right back to the positive side again recently. That's obviously a good thing. It could be a leading sector of the economy, and it's something I think a lot of people are counting on for next year to have a little bit of a revival in GDP. But boy, look at the spike here. That was the housing bubble. Way, way, way too high. You don't want to see that again.
I got the Henry V reference. That was about a month ago.
Yeah.
But I didn't pick up on the
You're
US.
tallying up your wins. I see.
Yeah, well, which are few and far between, so I've got to hold on
This
to
is
them.
obscure, I will grant you that.
Mike, thank you. Up next, the top retail reports to watch. Lowe's, Target, and L Brands all hitting the tape tomorrow. Full preview of those reports coming up.
To LeBron, slam dunk.
The NBA is on TuneIn Premium. Each week, TuneIn picks an NBA game you just can't miss. James Harden and the Houston Rockets are in LA to take on Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers.
Harden pulls back, trying to make it 11-2. Kawhi Leonard is all over the place.
This Friday, the Houston Rockets are at the LA Clippers. Tip-off is at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Search NBA on TuneIn to follow your favorite NBA team today.
The Better Network is now on TuneIn. This is Brent Musburger. Search the Better Network. That's the BETR network. And then let us get you better prepared to better enjoy